Arctic cold and big-time snow totals looking to make a return just in time for the holidays. All the details in today's video. Welcome in, folks. Happy, Tuesday, right? November 18th, and continuing to track this big pattern change. And I think the model's finally getting in close enough range that all the teleconnections we've been talking about are getting in a range that we can really start to forecast this big pattern change back to the cold and snowy side. Now, before we get there, we are dealing with warmer weather for many of us, but even some sneaky snow over the next 48 hours looking possible. I'll show you when and where here coming up in just a moment. Now, if you're new to the channel, though, welcome. My name's Gerald. I'm a meteorologist at WCCB Charlotte. If you haven't already, go ahead and like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell for the latest notifications. Doing all those things helps to keep you up to date. It's free. It doesn't cost you a penny. It doesn't sign you up for something that is going to bother you in any way. All it does is keep you weather-wise, and we're going to have a pretty busy time on the channel, I foresee, over the next month or so at least. We've got the daily uploads. Also, I'll go ahead and announce now, I'm planning a live stream Thursday night, so just about 48 hours or so from now, with a good friend of mine, BGWX. He lives up in the Northeast. He's a real weather whiz for that part of the country. So he's going to help me break down this big pattern change, and we'll tell you who we think has the best shot of seeing snow from kind of Thanksgiving onward. So you'll definitely want to have that bell on for when that happens. All right, I think that's enough of me rambling and enough things here at the beginning of the video. Let's dive right on into it and give you the latest on this big pattern change. All right, looping next to me, this is the brand new run of our European AI model. Literally just came out. And check out right there at the end of the loop. See all that blue diving south into the United States? That's well below average temperatures. There it is. You get one shot just in time for Thanksgiving, and then a big Arctic plunge for the start of December. That's really what the models are starting to hone in on now. Still a lot of details to figure out. Where exactly does that happen? How cold is it? And what kind of storm track do we have combined with that cold to help produce some snowfall? But starting to kind of get some of the details together. Either way, the model's really coming together that big pattern change is absolutely on the horizon. Before we get there, though, I do want to break down the near term because I do see some snowfall chances here a little bit sooner than you might expect. In fact, we've got a little bit of a system working through the mid-Atlantic right now. I think that and another one behind it both could interact with cold air to the north and potentially produce a band of snow for some of our friends up into the Northeast over the next couple of days. And some of you that maybe wouldn't expect it could even be seeing some snow. I'm talking about my friends up in Connecticut, maybe the Hudson Valley of New York. Even portions of the I-95 could see snow out of that. So we'll break it all down here in just a moment. But watching that, and then we've got this big digging low pressure out towards California. That's going to also ride this warmer pattern and produce some rain and maybe some snow over the next couple of days. But really, that snowier pattern is going to arrive around 7+ days from now. All right, here it is. You can see all that rain. Tell me what you're seeing out there right now on radar. It's a pretty rainy one, even some severe weather possible this evening with some of this up into the Ohio Valley, the mid-Atlantic, and you can even see some of that snow already breaking out into Wisconsin, Michigan, getting some snow. Let me know, again, what you're seeing out there. Even some snow trying to get going out towards State College and into PA here over, or really right now, and probably when many of you are watching this, and then that next storm system getting going back out into the desert Southwest. All right, that's a look at things right now. Let's time out this system. I'll show you who could see some of that surprise snow, and then we'll really start breaking down the longer range and kind of talk about the end of the month and into December. All right, here we go. Let's time it out for you. Our latest mesoscale data showing the storm system pretty well. Mainly rain for most of us. So, if you live down right along the Ohio River, this looks like more of a rain event even into West Virginia, Maryland. But it's that band of snow I showed you up into portions of Wisconsin and Michigan that honestly already looks better on radar than a lot of the data is initializing. That's a good sign downstream if you want to see snowfall. Watch what happens. You can see right around here. This is overnight tonight, getting into tomorrow, 1 a.m. We've got snow breaking out into northern PA. You keep it going, and you've got just a nice little band of snow. I think even tomorrow, kind of northern New Jersey. I believe it's I-80, I want to say, that runs through there, or I-76 maybe. Whatever is the horizontal interstate there in New Jersey, north of that one. Could see a quick burst of some heavy wet snow tomorrow early in the morning. Even tries to get probably not quite as far south as New York City, but if you're up into Connecticut, Rhode Island could see a quick burst of snow out of this, and then eventually it works on out of here. But maybe a quick little snow event. Remember, we've had a lot of shots of cold air into the Northeast. Some of that's still lingering around and cold enough that maybe a quick snow accumulation is not out of the cards. And then here comes that next system out of California starting to rev up by the time that we get towards, this is Thursday afternoon as the model is showing. All right, let's talk about snowfall totals potential with this. This is from the National Weather Service, and I know you're probably laughing. You're like, Gerald, why are you showing this to me if this is the forecast? Well, this is the NWS forecast, so this is not Gerald's forecast. I just want to show you what they have first. They've got a very skinny band of snow potential up into northern Pennsylvania, and that would be about the only accumulation it shows. However, if you look at some of the mesoscale model data, like the one I just showed you, the HER model, it has a nice little band of snow, 1 to 3 inches here, kind of into, again, northern Pennsylvania, clipping northern New Jersey, even getting a dusting upwards of an inch into portions of Connecticut, and this would be overnight tonight into tomorrow. So you can see that band of snow. It's not the only model showing it as well. If I show you the Canadian high-resolution model, also has that band of snow, but a little bit further south. Gets, again, a good 1 to 3 inches right into a corridor of central Pennsylvania. So I wouldn't be surprised if you live up in that part of the country. Let me know what you see overnight. You can always comment on the video. You can at me on social media, and I'll repost your stuff if you tag me on Twitter or Facebook. But I would not be shocked to see some quick accumulations tonight. Now, you're going to need the temperature to get below 32. It's going to be a heavy wet snow, so it's not going to want to accumulate very well, but some of us definitely could see a quick burst that leads to some snow sticking to the ground. So that's kind of the near term. Let's talk about the medium range a little bit now up to about Thanksgiving. And then, yeah, we're breaking down that big cold and snow chances finally returning right around Thanksgiving and especially into December. All right, let's kind of pick up where we left off. This is the European model, so this is kind of old reliable, honestly, and it's done a lot better this year than some of its competition. We'll just leave it at that. Cough, cough, GFS has just been terrible this year, to be honest. Not that that's really new, but it has been exceptionally bad, it feels like. So anyway, yeah, here's the current system working on through. You can see that one, that flies on through. Then comes the next storm I showed you. Here we go by Thursday afternoon and evening, starting to develop back down towards Texas, could produce some heavy rainfall, although it's been pretty dry there ever since the summer floods that we had. So some rain is probably not a bad thing for folks out that way. That one kind of follows a similar track right through the Ohio Valley. And you notice no snow here, although I will caution you, a lot of our cold has kind of trended further south in the medium range in the models this year. So this big pocket of cold up into eastern Canada, if that can come down, maybe we can get a quick band of maybe some snow with the two overlapping. Would not shock me here into the start of the weekend. But most folks, going to be a rain event as it stands right now. Then comes the next storm system. This one by Thanksgiving week. This is next Tuesday and into next Wednesday. Follows a very similar track, pulls up into the north, and again, a pretty warm system all the way to here, which is Thanksgiving afternoon. And it's kind of this point on that the models really start to show the change. Before we get there, though, let me show you snowfall chances. This is the chance of at least an inch of snow falling within a day or a 24-hour period. And let me just show you kind of that medium range now through about Thanksgiving or so. You can see we've got that quick little burst of snow potential into Pennsylvania showing up on the model here tonight on the European. And then most of the snow chances back into the Rockies. You can see another maybe quick chance of snow early next week, maybe some northwest flow up into the interior of the Northeast. But now all the way through here, which is into Thanksgiving, yeah, pretty small chances. Although you start to notice chances starting to rise at that point. Ooh, I'm giving you a bunch of spoiler alerts here. Sorry. Chances start to rise at this point, and I'll give you a quick teaser. What do you see? Yeah, chances are really going up after Thanksgiving and basically right after it. So why is that? Well, there's a lot going on in the upper levels, a lot of teleconnection data to go through. So let's start flying through it and give you the latest. Well, if you're a regular to the channel, you'll know what time it is. It's nerd out time, as I call it, or actually, I don't even know if that's what I call it. Either way, you're about to see me get into the nitty gritty stuff. So everything I've shown you so far is pretty simple, upper, or I should say surface maps. I've shown you radar, satellite, all the stuff you normally see on TV. Let's get into the stuff that we don't show you on TV and kind of the behind the scenes meteorology here that really is piquing my interest. All right, this is our 500 millibar height anomaly map. So this is basically the surface up to halfway. What kind of mass is there? If you're in a blue area, it's kind of a colder pocket of air. If you're in an orange or red area, it's a warmer pocket of air. And obviously, the difference between cold and warm air. You want the cold stuff if you want the snowy stuff, and the warmer stuff is generally warmer. So there's that part of the puzzle. The other part of the puzzle is the blue oftentimes can create storminess, not all the time, but oftentimes. So something to keep in mind as we go through this. All right, we're going to start with the same model I showed you at the very beginning of the video. This is the European AI model, and watch what happens. We'll move this ahead, keep it going, and right into about here or so. This is now through, early next week. We've got a lot of orange in the eastern United States, those heat miser colors, as I call them. All the kind of snow miser colors are kind of stuck up into Canada and well out here towards Alaska with this Aleutian low, it looks like, kind of developing. It's not going to stay that way forever. Notice what begins to happen. That works through. This is into next Tuesday. So now through next Tuesday, looks pretty warm for much of the eastern U.S. outside of a couple places. Then look at this big blueberry start to develop, and we've got a massive trough of cold air right into Thanksgiving or so. This is Thanksgiving afternoon, so it's kind of sped up the process here on the AI model. Has that big shot of cold air into the Midwest, southern Canada, into the Ohio Valley, continues east for Black Friday, has this big trough of cold air over the eastern United States, then kind of breaks off and some of the cold air gets trapped out west and some warmer air trying to work back into the east for the start of December. But either way, it shows that big pocket of cold developing. What about the European model? That was the AI version. What about the OG physics-based model, as you'll probably hear a lot on social media? Starts the same way, big pocket of warm air into the eastern U.S., but then does get that blue coming right in time for Thanksgiving. This is Thanksgiving afternoon. Pretty close to its AI counterpart. It's starting to catch up. So the AI model's leading the way here. The physics-based model's doing some of the catch-up work, if you will, and shows that big blue blob dipping into the eastern U.S. and then by the long range keeps the cold air into the eastern U.S. to start December. You put all this together, what about the ensembles? A good thing to use in the long range. I'll kind of skip through the boring part again. It's going to be warm for the next week. Kind of all the models agree. Then here comes Thanksgiving, gets that blueberry developing, that trough, those snow miser colors, and keeps it into the eastern U.S. through Black Friday, but then shifts it back west right around the start of December and gets the southeast ridge kind of rearing its ugly head. So which one of all of these do I think is most likely? Well, to kind of figure that out, we need to kind of look a little bit deeper into some of the teleconnection data. So let's go ahead and do that. And I think it'll really explain the highest likelihood of these scenarios once we start getting towards the end of the month and especially into the start of December. All right, if you thought the last map was kind of nitty-gritty meteorology, nerdy stuff, well, it's about to hit a whole new level. So bear with me. I'm going to try to explain it to you to the best of my ability. And we'll start with this. So the one word you hear a lot of the times, at least this time of year, is polar vortex. Basically, that's just the big pocket of cold air that's up into the North Pole, into the Arctic. And what happens is sometimes it can break down and send shots of cold air southbound. Now, is that going to happen? We've heard a lot of buzz about that potentially on social media. The latest European model does show that. Basically, anytime you see this kind of chart starting to dip down, especially if it gets below this kind of pink line that I'm going to draw in right here, that indicates sudden stratospheric warming, or basically that polar vortex goes from really tight and strong to loosening up and letting some of that cold air move southbound. A lot of the European model data here does suggest that towards the end of the month that will occur. And that's what you just saw in the ensembles as well. It's kind of bringing shots of that colder air down south. This piece of the puzzle agrees with it. Let's take a look at another piece of the puzzle. This is the MJO, or the Madden-Julian Oscillation. Basically, what this is it's just a big wave of rising motion that likes to circumnavigate the globe. And sometimes whenever it gets closer to us, it can kind of bump up winter weather chances during this time of year. And I will apologize. I actually showed this to you wrong the past couple of videos. Somebody in the comments made a very great point, and I didn't even realize I was looking at the map wrong. I had the phases right, but had a key part wrong, and that's kind of what the dates are. So I apologize. We all make mistakes, and myself included. But basically, where we are right now is we're kind of right into here. We're in phase 6. Ignore all of this line stuff over here. Okay, that was the past. All right, we're really starting right here in phase 6. And if you want to know what phase is, it's all up here at the top. So you can see I'll kind of circle the numbers. Here's 6, here's 7. Get it? 6, 7, right? Please clap. Here's 1, here's 2, here's 8, and then, 3, 4, 5. So those are the phases. That's what's on here first. Right now we're in phase 6. A lot of the data, though, shows right after Thanksgiving getting into phase 7, and by the start and middle of December getting into phase 8. Once you get into phase 8, that's when things start to get more exciting. Phase 8 and phase 1 especially is more conducive, generally speaking, for winter weather chances to rise in the United States, especially the eastern United States. And yeah, it could happen at a perfect time, right? Just in time for kind of Christmas and into New Year's. But that means that that's the time frame it's going to happen. So kind of right now, we're actually in a slightly less favorable. We're in 6 and 7. So that's one thing that suggests maybe not as snowy here in the medium range. All right, so we'll keep that in mind. So we've got one thing that says sudden stratospheric warming, if I can say the word right. That says, yeah, potentially big cold air. The MJO says maybe, but maybe not until later into December. Well, let's get a tiebreaker here, or another piece of the puzzle. That's the NAO. We've got two phases to the NAO to look at, a positive phase and a negative phase. And you can see what each has. The positive picture's on the right, the negative picture on the left. If you want snow and cold in the eastern U.S., you want a negative NAO. If you want warm and that heat miser weather I like to mention, you want a positive NAO. You can see what happens. Basically, in a negative, the jet stream dips into the eastern U.S. That brings the cold. That brings an active storm track along the eastern seaboard. A positive phase just has more zonal flow, which is not nearly as conducive for snow. Now, to say it can't, but you generally get less big snowstorms in a positive phase. So what's on the way? Well, the data is still kind of struggling a bit to figure it out. The GFS has a lot of members, or I should say, maybe 60% of the members that get us to positive. That's less favorable for snowy weather by the end of the month and into December, at least into right around the 1st of December. The other half have a negative. So the data really diverges after Thanksgiving, folks. Some of it says it's going to be pretty snowy. Some of it says not so much. And that's kind of the key thing to take away here. Personally, I think we're going to get a pretty good Thanksgiving snowstorm somewhere. You'll see why here in a moment. I'll show it to you. But I really think the real core of the good winter weather is going to come right around the middle of December onward. That's whenever the MJO gets more favorable. I think by then the NAO is going to really start to turn negative again. And that could really help us out. So that's kind of my thoughts on the teleconnections here. But with that said, I still do expect winter weather right after Thanksgiving. Let's show you why. Well, as I showed you with the upper level maps on the other models, they're in pretty good agreement. A big shot of cold air is on the way. You can see it here. This is the Euro AI. This is 2-meter temperature anomaly. So the temperature anomaly at the surface. Again, the orange and red colors are above average temperatures. The blue colors are below average temperatures. And you can see, yeah, we've got some pretty warm days ahead of us here for most of us. It stays warm, stays above average till right around here. This is literally Thanksgiving afternoon itself. So we start to get this big spillage of cold air into the United States, specifically starting into the plains. But the Euro AI model does creep some of it eastbound. You get a nice shot of cold air, basically right at the end of Thanksgiving, even into the eastern United States. You've got Arctic air up into the northern plains here in that same time frame. And then to start December, notice what happens. It keeps that really cold air out into the plains and gets this pesky southeast ridge to develop, even gets some cold air into the northeast. That would make sense with the MJO kind of fighting that cold air and maybe even the NAO fighting it a little bit. So that would mean, again, I still expect shots of cold air. Is everyone going to see the same magnitude of it? I don't think so. Right now, I think we will get a shot of cold air in the east right after Thanksgiving, but I think the first maybe week or so of December, much of the winter weather chances actually stay into the plains and maybe the Ohio Valley northbound. The southeast probably staying a bit warmer as it looks right now there with the Euro AI model. And I'll briefly show you the European ensembles. Again, another good tool to use. Shows the warmer weather in the medium range. Then comes that shot of colder air. Right here's right after Thanksgiving. This is Black Friday or so. Again, shows most of us getting a quick shot. But then you see that southeast ridge trying to work back in. So the Carolinas, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi. Maybe you warm back up a little bit to start December, but we stay cold and keep an active storm track back out into the plains during that same time frame. Speaking of that active storm track, here are the snow chances. Again, the chances of seeing at least an inch of snow within a 24-hour time period. Same model I showed you earlier. It's pretty boring the next couple of days. Right here, though, this is Thanksgiving. This is Black Friday. This is the Saturday after Black Friday and into the Sunday. Notice snowfall chances really start to rise into the Central Plains, Kansas, Nebraska, heck, maybe Oklahoma, Missouri, up into the Midwest, maybe even Appalachia, the interior Northeast. And you just kind of keep these constant snow chances into the northern tier of the country. Now, it's not quite to the Carolinas. It's not quite to Tennessee, but it's starting to get that snow into the United States in a more consistent time frame, and we'll take it down south too. All this does is help us. It lays snowpack and gets that colder air more likely to hang around for us later on. What about the GFS ensembles? Well, again, shows that snow signal right after Thanksgiving, right into the heart of the country. Now, I know the numbers aren't super high, but it's a better signal than we've seen so far. this winter, and kind of just keeps it coming from the Ohio Valley or so northbound through the first couple of days of December. And then I think the middle of December onward is when more people could kind of start to get on the fun, maybe the I-95 corridor, maybe the southeast. Maybe you could start to really get bigger snow chances once we get the middle of December onward. But I think first on deck is going to be the plains, maybe the Ohio Valley northbound into the Midwest, starting right around Thanksgiving or so. Alrighty, folks. Well, that's all I've got for you. A lot to talk about, a lot to go over the next couple of days. Like I said, we've got a live stream planned Thursday night. That's 2 days from now, Thursday, the 20th of, what month is it? It's November, right? Yeah, it's been a very long month and also very quick at the same time. But got that planned. And yeah, exciting stuff. Alrighty, that's all I've got for you. Have a great one. Enjoy the warmer weather because it won't last forever. And I'll see you all next time.